Hello, welcome back to another episode of Dead on Monday's Electric Café. Today we have Jonny Tiernan as a guest here. Hello, Jonny.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming. Jonny is running the Lola magazine, and maybe you want to talk a few words about yourself, introduce yourself, and what
Sure.
you're doing.
Yeah, as you said, I'm Jonny Tiernan. I'm the founder of Lola magazine. It's been running since 2016. It's an English cultural magazine about Berlin. So we cover the people and stories that make Berlin unique. That is essentially what we do. I moved to Berlin in 2014, and if you can't guess where from my accent, I'm from Belfast in Northern Ireland. So
You're living in Berlin since 14, you said?
2014.
And you started the magazine in
2016.
16. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
What else are you doing?
I also DJ as well, and we also do like agency work alongside the magazine. Yeah, we do an agency called Lola and the Bean. So the magazine's Lola, the agency's Lola and the Bean. I can explain more about the names as well.
Sure. Yeah, of course. So far, you have 8 issues, I believe. Right?
Yeah, we published 8. Yeah.
The last issue just came out.
Yeah, just came out at the start of this year, actually. Yeah, it was with the first issue we did through crowdfunding. Normally, we're supported by the cultural industry through advertising and sponsorship, but given that the cultural industry is currently on hold, slowly coming back to life.
Finally.
But yeah, so we did a crowdfunding campaign for the last issue, which was this one, issue 8, with Juliana Huxtable on the cover. Yeah, this is what we did. We did a crowdfunding issue to raise the funds for that, and it was successful. It worked. We were blown away by how supportive the community was, and it was really heartwarming, and it felt really special. In fact, I think this is, since maybe the launch issue, this is the one I felt the most strongly about.
Okay, cool.
It's the closest to my heart. So.
I guess we should mention that Lola magazine is actually a print publication that's for free.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it's quite amazing that you get the support from people on the crowdfunding, that they pay money for something that they were used to get for free, right?
Yeah. Sure, we did that. We also had some nice rewards for people. So we had like some signed stuff from Mark Reeder and from Good Run Good. They signed some records for us, which was nice.
Mark Reeder?
Yeah, legend. We also did like some nice, some tote bags, some mugs, some photo prints, all that kind of stuff.
Right.
And yeah, it was just really wonderful to get that support from people. Cool. It meant a lot.
You also brought some music today, I guess,
I did.
Right?
Yeah.
Maybe we just play something?
Should we start with the first track?
Sure, whatever you like.
It goes. It goes. It goes.
So the first track you brought us was from Mark Reeder,
Yeah, the man himself. Yeah.
the guest we had last month at Electric Café, right, Max? And Mark was also on the cover of the first issue from
Yeah, he was our very
Lola
first
magazine,
our
right?
very first cover star. Yeah.
That was 2017.
2016.
16.
Yeah, he's like For me, Mark, he's the quintessential Val Berliner, if you will, the person that has chosen Berlin as their home. And the way he came to be on the cover was pretty funny. I'd had the idea for starting a magazine. Well, I actually wanted to start a blog originally. I had this idea to start a blog when I moved to Berlin because I'm really passionate about promoting culture. It's the main reason I moved to Berlin. I love the culture of Berlin. I mean, I imagine it's like you guys as well. You know, I love music. I love art. I mean, I just really love the vibrancy of Berlin. So when I moved here, I kind of like really wanted to promote it. And I just had this urge to do it. So I was going to start a blog called An Immigrant's Love of Berlin. And it was a phrase I borrowed from the late journalist David Carr, who used to be a journalist for the New York Times. Great guy. He came to New York Times from a complicated background. He had drug problems and was a single parent. And like when he got to the New York Times, he felt like he wasn't of that world. You know, the people who are at the New York Times, they came like through whatever school, right? But he felt he didn't come from that world. But he said it gave him like an immigrant.
More like the average Berliner, right?
Yeah, right. but it gave him. He said an immigrant's love of the place, and I really love this phrase because that's how I feel about Berlin. You know, when people aren't from the city and you come here, it gives you like a different appreciation of it. You know, when you're comparing it maybe to where you're from. So I feel like for me, I had this immigrant's love of Berlin where I was just like enthused and in love with the city. So I was going to start a blog called An Immigrant's Love of Berlin.
But then the blog actually became a print magazine.
Yeah, I mean, I run
and in a period where people would say that print is actually dead,
right. I mean, so I ran a print magazine in Ireland, in Northern Ireland, for 9 years. That's what I published 81 issues, and I finished that in 2012 and said, I am never doing a magazine again. I am not doing that. So like when you move to Berlin, what's the first thing you do? Oh no, I know. I'll start a magazine. No, I didn't. One of my best friends, Stuart, who'd moved here a little bit before me. We were talking about like what to do in Berlin, and you know, we were talking about how if things didn't exist, that you kind of have to. It's good to create it yourself. And at the time, I realized there was no really high quality English language magazine about Berlin. It didn't exist. So then Stuart said, "You should start another magazine," and I said, "That's a crazy idea." And then, of course, like once I started thinking about it, and I already had the idea for this An Immigrant's Love of Berlin blog, and I was like, well, I've already mapped out the content ideas. Like I already had this idea, so I was like, yeah, I guess I could do a magazine, and then the idea snowballed, and it became Lola. Funnily enough, right? So we're on Hassenheide on the street, right? Wow. I was having lunch with in Hami with a friend of mine who had been on the same German language course, right? And we were having lunch one day, and I was telling her like I'm going to start this magazine, you know, about Berlin, and she's like, what's it going to be called? And I was like, I don't know. I was trying to think of a name that didn't have a relation to Berlin, to the title. And she said, well, what's your dog called? And I was like, it's called Lola. Just like, why don't you call the magazine Lola? And I was like, because that's...
Why did you call the dog Lola?
I didn't. I adopted the dog when she was 8 months old. I didn't even give her that name. So my friend was like, why don't you call the magazine Lola? And I'm like, because that's a ridiculous idea. And then I was like, or is it? And then, yeah, for the sec. Yeah, so then that's how the magazine called Lola ended up, came around. And the reason Mark ended up on the cover is because we were thinking, like, what would the first cover star be of the magazine, you know? Who would represent that? And it was Christmas of 2015. My dad, as a present for Christmas, he'd asked me what I wanted. I said, well, I just seen this amazing documentary, B-Movie, with Mark Reeder, yeah? And I knew there was a book about it as well, so I said, like, I'd love to read the book. You know, I'd love to know more about this story. It really fascinated me. So then my dad bought me the book, the DVD, and the soundtrack. So I was like, yo. And then me and my best friend Alan, were watching the documentary at Christmas. And I was like, oh my God, Mark Reeder, he would be an amazing cover star for Lola. He's perfect. Like, he came here in 1978. Yeah. He came here for a holiday to buy some records. He's never left, right? I mean, like, he just really represents that love of Berlin. So yeah,
you also share that kind of, right? That
right, yeah.
Coming here
sure. I mean, I came here for...
didn't expect to do.
Right, I came here for a 2-month career break. It's nearly 7 years, so I'd say it's career broken at this point, let's be honest. But
Berlin is like that. Berlin is really the place where you come in and you can go away. You know.
When did you move here, Mark?
It was the same period, 2014. Yeah. Amazing in the story about Lola, because I was curious to ask you.
Yeah. Well, it's not. I tell people that we named the magazine after the character that made Marlene Dietrich famous. She played this, the actress from Berlin. She played the character Lola in the film De Blaue Engel.
Yeah.
So I tell people at the start, that's what Berlin is. It's Lola the magazine is named after a Marlene Dietrich character, but no, it's just my dog.
Maybe the original owner named the dog after the characters.
Right. Oh, yeah, I never thought about that before. Right. Yeah, that's it. And just for some fun, by the way, I have my dog's bandana tattooed on my arm with the magazine logo.
Did you add that before the magazine? So it's really a reference to the dog or to the magazine?
Both. It's to both. Mainly the dog, though. Like I'm a dog dad. So.
Cool. Should we listen to another track, maybe?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, let me just stick. Yeah. Let's put this on. Cool.
We were coming up the same way. Now I can sleep all the day. Close your eyes, can you find some space, babe? And your marbles too. Tired of living in the old ways. Tired of living in the new age. Tired of living just to work and fade. Wanna turn a page. Time slips away. 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 Don't let time slip away. Time slips away. Time slips away. Time slips away. Don't let time slip away. Time slips away. Time slips away. Time slips away.
So what we are listening now?
This is Moscow Man,
Okay.
and the track is called Time Slips Away. It is the first track of his album from last year called Time Slips Away.
Okay.
And I picked this because, I am a huge Moscow Man fan. And also, we did a feature in the most recent issue of the magazine. We do a feature online called Sounds of Berlin,
Okay,
right?
yeah.
And we did this Sounds of Berlin 2020, where we asked a bunch of music industry people from Berlin what their favorite Berlin-related record of
Yeah.
the year was. And then we also got some people from Lola to pick their favorite record. And this was my favorite record of the year.
Okay.
And I love it so much. It really crosses that line between electronica and a live feeling. And yeah, it's awesome. It's just an awesome album. It's kind of like LCD Sound System. If you're a fan of LCD Sound System, you'll love this Moscow Man album. But I love it, and it kind of, when it came out, I was like, everybody should hear this record. And then I realized how hard it is because it was released during the pandemic.
Yeah.
When you release an album like this, normally you'd go and do a tour, you'd promote it, you'd put it out there, and I'm like, how hard must it be for a musician to have spent all that time creating this amazing album, and then you can post about it on the internet, but it's not the same as going out and touring that record.
Yeah, Prisoners of the Silence.
Yeah, and this record really brought it home for me in that way, because obviously, whenever I find a record I love, I want to go and see that artist live. That's what I want to go and experience it live. I want to go and see it. And it made me reflect on how hard it is then for artists, especially right now when
completely.
they can't do that. This is their life, you know?
Yes.
Anyway.
And Johnny, I was curious to ask you, for example, you're doing a lot of use and a lot of interview in your magazine. Which one of these interview is still in your heart or in your body?
Yeah. I mean, the one I always reference, because what we do with Lola, we cover the big, brilliant icons,
Yes,
okay?
yeah.
You know, people like Peaches,
Yeah, I saw,
Niels
yeah.
Fram, Motorrat.
Yeah.
So we do that to have them on the cover, right? To create interest, because they're prolific and high-profile
Of
people.
course.
And then what we do alongside that, though, is we flag up and talk about the unsung heroes of Britain.
Yeah.
People that deserve the attention, but maybe
Yeah.
just don't have it in the same way. And for me, one of our quintessential stories about that from the early days was we did a feature with Frisbee Jesus of Gurlitzer Park.
Yeah, yeah.
He's a guy named Herbert Schmidt who plays Frisbee in the park like every single day.
Yeah.
Unless it's raining, he is, because you can't catch a Frisbee when it's wet.
Yeah.
But apart from that, he is there
Yeah,
like
yeah.
every single day. And I just saw him every day and I was like, why is he doing this? Is this a type of meditation for him? Like, why does he go out there and do it? So I went up and asked him, I was like, can we interview you about what you do? He's always playing with other people, obviously, and there's a crew of them. And he like catches it behind the head and does these spins. So he's really famous for it. Everybody knows him. He's been in like a few documentaries and things. And then, what I really loved then when in the interview he talked about it, he said, he was like, it's like a type of meditation for him. The throwing the Frisbee and doing that every day is like a type of meditation. And I was like,
Amazing.
that's really beautiful. I think that people can find that and find that type of peace in
Yeah.
different places.
Yeah,
So I love
completely.
that. And then, but even in the most recent issue, other stories that I really loved,
Yeah.
there's one which is with Hera, which is a female non-binary skateboard collective
Okay.
that do meetups at they did until the pandemic, obviously, but they do meetups at a skate park at Maybach near here.
Yeah.
And they create an environment for people who maybe feel slightly intimidated by the normal, like male-dominated presence of skateboarding,
Okay.
and create a space for people who maybe don't identify like that to come
Alright.
along and to skateboard and to learn to skateboard.
Amazing.
And this one, and I just think it's a really beautiful and wonderful
Yeah.
project. I'm a skateboarder myself, so like it really speaks to me,
Yeah,
and I just
yeah.
think it's really valuable as a community building tool.
Yeah,
As
yeah.
it's just like there's so much beauty behind the sport, and that's a really
Amazing,
special
amazing.
feature
Yeah.
for me.
Yeah. That's the way because Berlin is the place of the freedom.
Yeah.
You know, and that's really crazy. I give you yes. To you.
Thank you. You just mentioned you're also a skateboarder. Still
Yes.
active? Or?
Yeah.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah. I mean, I just started up again last year. I had an injury that I thought meant I wouldn't be able to skateboard again. I went to a physiotherapist and they said, no, you can skateboard. And I was like, great, and literally went out back on the board. And then during the pandemic, it's just been the best time for skateboarding that I think I've ever had. I skateboarded a lot until my 30s, and then I stopped for some years, and then I got back on the board and discovered, this is gonna sound crazy, but like YouTube didn't exist when I learned to skateboard. So whenever I started skateboarding again, I started using YouTube tutorials, and it was like I'd noticed that I'd been doing these things wrong for my whole life, and then I corrected them, and then it worked, and then I learned new tricks, and in the past year I've actually learned new tricks, and I can skateboard better. I'm 41. You can teach an old dog new tricks. I'm an old dog.
I never thought about that, but yeah, of course. Like, I mean, I tried to be a skateboarder in my youth,
Yeah.
but I failed. And yeah, you're right. Like, there was not like today. You for everything. Just is it like hanging a picture on the wall? You just go on YouTube and get the tutorial to do that. So.
Yeah, and then you watch a tutorial and you go like, that looks so easy, and then you go out and you try it and you're like, that is not easy.
Right.
They make it look easy, but before there was no tips, no nothing. Yeah, and so like I've learned skate a
I mean,
lot.
we sound like grandpas now, but the kids nowadays probably don't even know how hard that was.
Yeah, and also just in terms of in the pandemic, it's been amazing to go to Tempelhof. I mean, Tempelhof's one of my favorite places in the world. The fact that park, that airport, that strip, that is just reserved for people to go and use for the public is just like the People's Park. It's just like a mecca to me. I really
Right.
love it. So I've been there a lot over the past year during the pandemic, going in the open space, skateboarding on the runway, skateboarding in the park, hanging out with friends. It's just beautiful. Love it.
What is your musical background in your youth? Like when you mentioned skateboarding, like you also listen to like that punk, hardcore stuff that the kids do on the skateboard?
Yeah, I did. Like I was listening to Dead Kennedys, No Means No, all the hardcore at age 12. So I like 11, I got into hardcore punk. Was into that. And then when I was 14, I went to my first club. Had my first experience, let's say, and got massively into dance music after that. And was I going to techno clubs from I was 14 onwards, and then it's kind of how I ended up becoming a DJ by the age of 17.
What is the style you DJ? What is the style that you play when you DJ?
I call it disco punk now. It's like a cross between disco and post punk. Just danceable post punk. It probably comes from like having a love of hardcore punk music growing up as a skateboarder, loving that sound, but also loving to dance and loving to make people dance. So I try and play. Yeah, that's my style. And I've just been collecting stuff over the years that fits into this loose genre, like what I played from Mark at the start. I mean, for me, that's kind of like disco punk, steady beat, sharp guitars, cool vocals. So but I started out as a techno DJ. That's what I started playing.
Yeah, we're talking about Mark all the time, but still,
Yeah,
it's also exactly that reference, right? He's basically one of the first figures in that whole post-punk movement, but then also early 90s, being in Berlin, starting the techno trance stuff with MFS and. Should we play another track?
Yeah, let's see. How about I'll play something that actually was originally here we go.
Oh, I recognize that.
Yes.
That cover fits to it, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
take off, plastered to the back of my seat. Pink fingernail polish on your right breast. And all around us, saturated.
Kaltes Wasser. Kaltes Wasser. Kaltes Wasser. Wasser. Wasser.
All over me, chill me out, cool me down, no feeling, no control.
Wasser.
Chill me out, cool me down, no feeling, no control.
So here we are. That's basically what we just talked, right? Post-punk influences, Malaria, but with electronic music reworked by Chicks on Speed.
Yeah, Chicks on Speed did a cover version of the track, and this is DJ Co's doing a remix of that version. Yeah. Which, yeah, I think it's for me, it really shows that influence of how influential that 80s sound, that post-punk sound, how influential it is and how long-lasting it is. You know, that it keeps getting revisited and reimagined and updated. Yeah, which is super cool. Obviously, Malaria is Gudrun Gut, who was a cover star of the last issue of Lola. Yeah, she was the singer in Malaria. Yeah, and then she went on from there. You know, is another Berlin icon. Yeah. Record label founder, musician. You know, she's and what they represent for me, Mark and Gudrun as well, is like, it's hard to overstate how influential the 80s period in Berlin was, and how much that carried forward and set the tone for the way the city is today. You know, Berlin in the 80s, from my understanding, obviously I wasn't there, I didn't live through it, but from Mark you can see that the city attracted people who were then going to it and then saying, okay, they're going to live a different lifestyle, create music, do things in a different way. And I think that attitude and that ethos is what Berlin has really been built on, that counter-cultural, subcultural experience, and it's carried forward through to today. And I think you see it, you know, the reverberations and echoes of it. So.
And not like us, and including Mark actually. She's actually real Berliner, right?
Yeah.
Honestly, I'm not sure if she's born in Berlin, but
she moved here as well. But
okay. So, see, you know more than me.
But yeah, I mean, I always relate this to, like, I come from Belfast, and punk music was a really big thing for Northern Ireland in Belfast. It really was the phrase that this record producer Terry Hooley, record label founder, he came up with was it New York had the trousers, London had the haircuts, but Belfast had the reason. And it was like Belfast had the reason for punk. You know, it really had something to rebel against. So in this late 70s, 80s, there were all these punk bands from Belfast that really like created this scene. And then from there, you know, they kept going, they influenced other people, and that directly led, I founded a music magazine in Northern Ireland called Alternative Ulster. And Alternative Ulster is a song from the 70s, a punk song, total anthem. But anyway, that whole movement, you know, that all kept going, and it meant then that all these years later, people were able to start bands and, you know, able to do these things because other people had done it before them and provided this framework and this foundation for it. So yeah, and I kind of see a parallel for that in Berlin, where people show, you know, this is the way you can live. This is a thing you can do. You know, we're doing it, and people are like, okay, I can do it too. You know, it's inspiration. Yeah.
And yes, what I maybe wanna talking about right now? It's like your experience with Berlin, because you're here about 8 years.
It's seven
years, and of course you're doing DJing, you're doing magazine, and what I mean. We already say something about Berlin, but what is your experience? What you catch about the city? What you love about the city?
I mean, honestly, it always comes back to the culture of the city and the fact that outside of pandemic times, normally in Berlin times, there's just something different to do every night of the week for whatever you're into.
Yeah.
Are you into live poetry?
Yeah.
Are you into storytelling events? Are you into
Yeah.
experimental noise music? Are you into going to a club? You know, whatever you're into culturally, so much music on offer, so much art on offer, you know,
It's true.
photography exhibitions, like whatever you want,
Yeah.
film screenings, outdoor cinemas, you know, there's so much happening that whatever you want to experience culturally, like it's there.
Yeah.
And also, I think that it also encourages people to produce culture in a way that maybe other cities it's more difficult to
Yeah,
experience.
sure,
And I
sure,
think
sure.
that it's not that there's a lower barrier of entry in Berlin. It just feel like there's more venues and opportunities for people to do things,
Yeah.
to do exhibitions, to to start bands and have places to play. I think that
Yeah,
it's-
it is. I think also
yeah.
because Berlin is the place where you can be who you are, you know, and in the arts and whatever. And it's also when you go to do Anmeldung, they ask you also your nickname as artist. That surprised me, you know. In other country, when you say I'm a DJ in Italy, they say okay, you don't work.
Yeah.
You know, it's something like that. This city is so great for that reason. And yeah, and also because I think you can meet a lot of interesting people also.
Yeah.
That's the way, you know.
It doesn't stop to surprise one, you know, like for example, to be honest, I haven't been familiar with Lola magazine until recently, and well, I believe you probably neither with us as DJs or with my record label or something, but yeah, then we meet and it actually is, we're on the same level and it totally makes all sense, and everyone's doing their things, and a lot, of course, you make a lot of connections, but still you can still find new people, and yeah, of course, the whole pandemic, everything slowed that process a bit down, and the nightlife, absolutely. But yeah, is
Yeah,
that something you share?
Absolutely. We were talking about this earlier as well, as I went out to to a bar, well, to the Comedy Café on Saturday night for the first time in I don't know how long. Went out for a drink, and at first I was like not very excited about it. We're just going out for a drink to meet some friends, and once I was there, I was overly excited. I was like, oh my god, I'm outside, I'm meeting a new person, I'm chatting, this is incredible, and it made me realize how much I enjoy that about Berlin and about life in general. But you're right. It means that normally in Berlin, you just bump into new and different and interesting people that are doing interesting things, almost like wherever you are and whatever you're doing. You know, so many people here are involved in creative pursuits and in doing good things. That I love that. I mean, like now we've met. And it's like okay, you know, each other are doing cool things, and yeah, I love that about Berlin. That there's always new people to meet. There's always people coming through who are doing culturally interesting projects, and I love it.
I mean, it's a quite an hype right now for many people, but I think it's the real spirit of Berlin never dies because it's the place where it's open mind place. Also because it's not only Berlin, it's the Berliner is really interesting because I was living in different part of the world, and sometimes the hype finish. You know, was in London, was in Paris. Berlin is like this from the 80s, so it's open mind place, and somehow when you come here, you also start to be open minded, and you also to start to think and to believe in something where maybe you come from was not allowed. So I think almost the right words in Berlin can be translated in freedom, you know.
Yeah.
That's the way. What we are to listen now? What we can listen now?
Yeah, I'm going to put on a track from a compilation.
Yeah.
The compilation's called Una Vida de Barrio.
Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, I'm going to play a track from this compilation,
Yeah.
and I'll talk about it after.
Right.
So, what was the reason to pick that track?
Right. And also, I'm gonna have to read it out because I couldn't. It's by Harry Baldi and it's called Ik wist het Philip Albert. Yeah, and it's from the Una Video de Barrio compilation, which is an 11-track compilation that was put together by Tristan, who's also known as Gratz. He's a Belgian DJ. But him and some friends had started playing football in like one of the local, like enclosed five-a-side football areas here. So they'd started playing five-a-side football, and then after a while they realized that everybody they brought into the group were all producers and musicians, and they kept playing with each other and the group kept growing. So then they thought, we're all musicians, why don't we make an album? So then they did. Each person did a track that's inspired by a different footballer. So and then 11 tracks, like an 11 aside. And it's just a really cool, great project. The whole record is awesome. It's Una Vida de Barrio. I strongly recommend it. And we just found out about it through Lola. Yeah, they talked to us about doing a story. It was a friend of a friend.
It recently came out, or
yeah, just last year.
Right.
Yeah, during the pandemic. They did a 5-track vinyl sampler, which I played to death. Yeah, and then only recently was like, why am I not listening to the full record? So then I started listening to the full album on Spotify. Just canned the 5-track sampler, but it's really, I just think it's a really nice, really interesting idea to have all these people that have met through playing football from different nationalities, from different places, different backgrounds, and then to do this record.
Are you into football?
No, actually, no. Although there is a Northern Irish footballer on this, not on the record. The song is inspired by a Northern Irish footballer, George Best. He's like a world famous sports person from Belfast, renowned. He's been one of the best footballers in the world. Also, like most of our sporting heroes, unfortunately was an alcoholic. So I wish that was a joke. Another one of our sporting heroes, Alex Higgins, world champion snooker player, also unfortunately. Yeah, it's a thing. So anyway, let's change. Let's change the topic.
I believe
from that.
Sports is not a real topic in Lola magazine, right?
Actually, funnily enough, we did a story on there's a Berlin GAA team. So GAA is Gaelic football, Irish football. It's like a different kind. And then in the first issue, because someone said, "Oh, I've got a Gaelic football team in Berlin." I'm like, "There's a Gaelic football team in Berlin? Gaelic football?" They're like, "Yeah, we meet and there's loads of teams and they play with each other." And I was like, "You what?" So then I was like, we need to do a story on this. So we did. Actually, funny, I should really name check some people, but Alex Rennie, who's one of our best writers, he actually did the story on Una Vida de Barrio, but he also did the story on the Gaelic football, Berlin GAA Gaelic football team, and he went along to the practice, and he practiced with the team, like went into practice and played with them, and he ran so much. I think he was sick at the end. But yeah, he's like, I'm going to get involved. I'm going to practice. Loads of our stories. We did a feature with Pornceptual. He'd never been to a sex positive party before, so he went along to Pornceptual for the story. Went topless, did his thing, and just really gets stuck into the stories. He's a great guy. Love him. Yeah. Yeah, there's so many, I gotta say as well, like there's so many great people that it's such a great team that contribute and make Lola, like writers, designers, photographers. It's just
questions like, it's not just you, right?
No.
I mean, you are the editor-in-chief and the publisher.
Yeah.
But you have a team of writers and photographers and freelancers, or
yeah, we have a core team of people so Kathy is the editor, Mario is the photo director. And then Lisa is the designer, and Alan takes care of all the tech stuff. So we're the core team, and we're the ones who work on it the most. And then we have a really great team of freelancers who also work with us. So Robert Rieger does almost all of our cover shoots. He's so good. He's been with us right from the start. He's awesome. Emma Robertson does a lot of our cover shoots as well. And just again, Berlin's a really wonderful place for talented people.
Yeah, also for found the right people for make your team. But also it's really interesting nowadays to have a magazine, a real physical magazine, because nowadays everything is digital.
Yeah.
That's really important.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I love print. I think it's almost like printing magazines is a statement of intent and a document of the times. It's like
vinyl and music.
Exactly. Like honestly, I feel like it's exactly the same, And I think that having these artifacts and these products that you can digest slowly, that last longer, that you can look back over time, it's just the experience of it is a lot different than just having a digital publication. We still publish everything digitally and we do more content online, but I just think there's also there's just something about the decision making process that you have to go through when you're committing something to print that feels different than when you're doing it on digital. When you're able to be like, okay, this is going to be our full page photograph. You know, when people have went and produced these photo shoots as well, and they're like, we're going to make this, print this in 2 pages. It's like they're like, each of them are like works of art. We did a feature with the Berlin Strippers Collective, who are an awesome collective that stand up for the rights of strippers and sex workers in Berlin. And they also do other things, but that's one of their core causes. And we did a feature with them, and we did a photo shoot with the photographer Mark, and we did it outside in December in the Wildermanata garden. But it was like this crazy production. There were smoke bombs. Like it was awesome. And it was like one of the best shoots I think we've ever done. At first, they were like, we're not getting our clothes off outside. It's December, you know. So then we lit a fire, and then they get into it, and it was super cool. But those photographs were awesome. So then, honestly, to be able to then take those photographs and then publish them and print them in this.
Would you make all that effort for having a JPEG on the internet?
Right.
But to having on a nice. Also, I really have to mention that because you just see it right now, but. It's really nice paper.
Yeah,
we choice for that.
Yeah, we use it's an uncoated style of paper, so it's not matte and it's not glossy. It's this uncoated paper. It's just a nicer print. I mean, even though we do the magazine and it's free, it is a premium product. Don't want to sound too, it's freemium is the idea, because we're like, I also believe in accessibility to media, and so that everybody should be able to access. And I believe in promoting information as democratically as possible. And I think it's awesome to be able to distribute a magazine of high quality to anybody who wants to read it. And I think that's. And if I don't know if people can see, but this is the photograph, one of the back page of the Berlin Strippers Collective. You guys can see. And then, I mean, it's just. So he made these special. The photographer stayed up all night making baseball bats with all the strippers' names on them. Like it was insane.
I guess one thing that's really important that we should mention now, after talking about you and the magazine, where can people get your magazine?
Well, right now, the easiest thing to do if you want is to like order it online. We are selling them online for postage. Now we're starting to distribute them again, because the problem is normally we distribute through coffee shops, cinemas, music venues, clubs, etc.
You're still walking around and lay them down there?
Yeah. And outside of pandemic times, that's what we would do.
So
but
it's basically still a fanzine, right?
It's kind of like a high-end fanzine. Yeah. But we just kind of leave it in all of the places where people who we think would be interested in our content go to. And now we're distributing. Now that things are slowly opening in Berlin, we'll be distributing to places again.
But it's only in Berlin, or also outside?
Yeah. I mean, people actually nicely they order it from different parts of the world. Right. We've sent it out to like Italy and Brazil and all these other places, so it's super nice. That's the thing about Berlin. I think people outside of Berlin are as interested in the city and what is happening here as people from Berlin. It has this attraction for people. People are fascinated by it.
It's written in English, so again, accessible for everyone.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. I think we're at the end, so maybe you want to play a last track?
Yeah, let's just play a classic as the last track, will we? Yeah.
What's a classic?
A classic is Bad Kingdom by Motorrat. It's an absolute classic, isn't it? They were the cover stars of issue 4. There's a whole story behind that.
Right?
There's always a story. That's what you understand.
Yeah, I guess we could talk forever now, but where's it? Yeah, is it?
Motorrat. This was the last cover, the last feature they ever did before they went on their indefinite hiatus. They pretty much, this was their breakup interview, even though if it wasn't officially their breakup. But yeah, and the funny thing is, whenever we published this feature online, I changed the headline from this, which is an inside view of their rag kingdom. I changed it to The End of Motorrat. And then it got picked up by Resident Advisor and international press, and everybody talked about it. And the band said it's one of the things that helped sell.
But when you did the interview, you and neither the band were aware it's going to be the last one, or
no? We all knew. Everybody knew. Yeah. Okay. They keep saying they're on hiatus. I'm not sure they're coming back. Anyway,
well, let's see.
Cool.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much. Cool.
And everyone check out Lola magazine.
Yeah, lolamag.de. Find us online. Lola Mag Berlin on the socials. So here we go.
Thank you, Jonny.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.
full glasses through